Hey, I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married.
With children.
We're married 2 years now.
Blended for 11.
Like a margarita.
Yeah, baby, like a margarita.
And you're listening to the Everything Always podcast.
Want to tell them why we do this?
We do this because blending families isn't easy. There's step-parenting, co-parenting, his ex.
Her ex.
Schedules, sibling rivalry.
Money issues.
Custody issues.
Dating and relationship issues.
It's a whole lot of stuff.
Blended with a whole lot of good stuff.
And we're here to talk about all of it because we've done most of it.
We might not be experts, but we've learned a lot.
And we're still learning, and we want to share that with you.
Thanks for joining. Now let's go.
Guys, I am really excited for you to hear today's episode because we're talking about money. Money as it pertains to our kids, setting up our kids for success when it comes to money. Because most kids under the age of 17 really don't understand money. They don't understand budgets and goals, savings, interest rates. It's just something they're not thinking about. And the big question is why? Why not? Why are parents not having these conversations with their kids when it's so important? It's probably one of the most important conversations to have as they become adults so that they can be prepared. So it's something that I feel like is not talked about enough. And it's the same as my guest today. He felt the same way. And so he wanted to change that. So my guest today is Benny Nachman. He is the CEO at Jassby, which is a family finance app. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jassby in just a minute, but let me tell you first about Benny. Benny is a serial entrepreneur. He's got a proven track record in building a global bank with over 30 licenses all over the world, managing hundreds of employees, thousands of merchants, with over $7 billion in volume. So he knows a thing or two about money and money management. And he's a father and he gets it. He gets that people aren't having these conversations with their kids. And he's also seeing the damage in that and how it can be extra hard. And we're not doing our kids any kind of a service if we're not having that conversation. So we're going to talk about how to do that and action steps that you can take immediately, like today, so that we can get our kids familiar with money and how to handle it and understanding savings and why savings is so important. So let me tell you a little bit about Jassby. So Jassby, it's an app that was created by families, for families, and it was originally designed to help reduce the common household arguments around budgets, chores, and money. But from there, what they've evolved into is this world-class shopping experience. It's like a form of banking for the next generation. It's a mobile wallet, if you will, for the family, for families to allow parents and even grandparents to share money with their kids while also teaching them about financial literacy. So you can manage allowances and savings goals, and your kids learn how to manage the money that they have and how they spend it, and really understand the importance of savings and how it doesn't have to be this daunting thing. Because I think a lot of kids are like, I don't want to put that away. I want to spend that right now. But we talk a lot about the rewards and how it can feel really good to save, to work up towards something that you want to buy, and really cool ways of doing that, but doing it in a way that's not so overwhelming. Because we all know kids today, technology is a huge thing. A lot of kids want to buy big techie things and they're expensive. And sometimes it's like, you know what, my allowance or what I can earn, it's not even going to come close. So forget it. I'm just not even going to worry about savings. But we actually talk about the baby steps that you can take and the rewards that children can feel, get excited about it, and then realize that saving your money is actually really awesome. Anyways, I'm giving away too much. So let's get into the interview. You're going to hear all of those great things, amazing tips, and really the things that you can do right now to set your children up to understand money and how it works. Enjoy the show. Hello, Benny, and welcome to the show. We're going to talk about some really good stuff today.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So we have not really addressed this on the show before, and I think it's so important. And that is talking about kids and money, how to handle money, and really set them up for success. And we're actually going to be talking about kids specifically under the age of 17. Mm-hmm. But before we dive into all of that, can you give us a little bit of a background of who you are and what you're doing today and why it's so important to you?
Absolutely. So I'm what you call a serial entrepreneur. I'm an attorney by profession. I always tell people, don't hold it against me. But what I really like and enjoy is building companies. So the company we're going to talk about that I'm heading now is called Jassby. That's actually my third company. And what I do normally is around fintech. So I had a company called Credorox, which is a global acquirer of businesses to do, accept debit, credit, any kinds of payments. It's a very large company that does business in some 30 countries. So I've been doing mostly banking/financial technology companies. And that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. That's my passion. That's like the ecosystem that I feel very strongly about. And my current company is called Jassby. It's a new company. And what we do is that we connect parents, grandparents, and kids into one financial ecosystem, if you will, or platform. And the adults can give money to the kids. And, grandparents can give money for birthdays or holidays. Parents can give money for the same, but also for chores or, achievements in school or in sports or really for any reason. And then the kids can do three things. They can save, they can donate, or what we call do good. So we work with some 20-something nationwide charities that they can, give back to the community. And they can also spend. And they can spend in-app buying fashion and buying electronics and buying video games and really anything that kids want. And they also can spend through our virtual MasterCard debit card. And they can, use this anywhere that Apple Pay is accepted. So yes, really, fintech and finance, and especially something that we're going to talk a lot about today, I hope, financial literacy and how that applies to kids and why it's important is something that I'm super passionate about.
That's exactly what I want to talk about because, there's so many things going on when you have kids, and there's so many, you're trying to teach them how to be responsible, whether it comes to schoolwork, doing things at home. There's so many things that sometimes this gets overlooked, and all of a sudden your kids are 18 and they're like, what do I do? And I've seen that happen with families, and all of a sudden they've got this adult who really doesn't know how to handle money. So let's dive especially how the app can help.
Yes. So I think you're 100% right. And even before the app, so listen, I think we are actually, and I always say, I'm a parent of two boys. I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I think and I say, generally as parents, we are doing a poor job about educating our kids about money. So for some reason, and I don't know, it's just an observation, I don't know why, talking about money with kids became almost like a taboo. It's something we don't talk about in family, and we also don't talk about at school. So I think the vast majority of states have absolutely zero references or talk in school through entire 12 years of school, anything about money, about the financial system and how it works and why. And what we do is that we bring up kids and we teach them so many things, right? And we put so much effort into their education and preparing them for life and sending them to college and all of those things. But we never, ever talk to them about what money is and how interest work and why it's not a good idea to only pay minimum payments on their credit card. And then when they're 19 or 18 or whatnot, and they go to college and they're adults, they don't know the first thing about money, and they don't know how to make good decisions about money. And then they grow up, and become, even more mature adults, but it all stays with them because nobody ever talks to them about that. And I think it's such a major gap that it's just mind-boggling that it's like that. It's so important. I would tell you, it's more important than most things that they teach in school. It's more important than college. it's like one of the maybe 4 or 5 top things that you can do for your kids, in my view, is teaching them about money.
I couldn't agree more. I wonder from your, like, what is your opinion on that? Why do you think it's this topic that doesn't get addressed?
So honestly, I don't know, but I have like maybe 1 or 2 guesses. So I think for years now, for maybe 1, 2 generations, money and banks and banking and all of this, it became scary. I read, I think a couple of years ago, that they did a survey. I think it was among millennials, but like, thousands, I think 4 or 5 thousand, young adults in the United States. And something like 70% said that they are more worried or more scared, I don't remember exactly how it was phrased, to go to the bank than to go to the dentist. And I think that once it's like a fear of math, right? It goes through generations. So if I feel uncomfortable around money, and if I'm scared to go into my bank, and if I don't feel comfortable that I know enough about financial matters, then of course I'm not going to talk to my kid about it because, I feel inadequate. So that's, I think, one part of it. The other part of it is like a lot in our society, everything is very politically correct. And you're not allowed to talk about money because not everybody has exactly the same amount of money. So that's a sensitive topic. So what we do is in a systemic way, especially I think that's the reason why schools shy away from it, because when they talk about it, they would need to acknowledge the fact that not everybody has exactly the same bank account. And so they choose not to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the kind of a combination of those 2 factors drove the conversation away from the household. So the parents don't talk about it, and then the school don't talk about it. And then you have a 22-year-old that has his first job or her first job, and you're shocked that they can't understand their salary slip or don't understand how to, file taxes. Or again, why it's not a good idea to only pay minimum payments on your card. So
Right.
Again, this is like I always tell people, and I do this all the time with my kids, by the way, maybe, even exaggerated to the other side, is explaining how things work, especially again around money. And I also think that the younger you start, the better you are. So I hear a lot from, people and users, like they ask, what's the right age? Is 8 too young? Is 10 too young? And, I really think that there is no too young. I mean, obviously, if you have a 2-year-old, it probably is too young, you know what I mean? But I think that an 8-year-old, for sure, and you adapt, you adjust the level of the discussion, obviously, to the kid's age and his or her, mentality and level of knowledge and so on and so forth. But the earlier you start talking about it and start teaching and start experiencing, the better it is. And, I always tell people, my kids and I, we like to play golf. But I have a confession, the first time that I ever had a golf club in my life, I was 40. And my older son, started playing golf when he's 6. So after both of us played for a few years now, I probably will never have his natural grace in doing a golf drive, because he learned it when he's 6 years old. And when you're 40,
Right.
the muscle, it doesn't work the same way. So the earlier you learn things and they become part of you, the more embedded they are, the more natural you will be at them. I hope, again, I make sense with all of this.
No, absolutely. That makes so much sense to me. So, the question is, what do we do? How do we start in terms of teaching our children?
So I would say 2 things. So one, just talk about it. And it can be part of the normal conversation. Again, don't force it. Don't make it like a lecture. The one thing I always, and that's part of our philosophy in Jassby, by the way, is learn by doing and learn by life experiences, and not by a boring lecture about, now we're going to talk about money and financial literacy, because after 10 seconds, obviously, their eyes, they just glaze over and they stop listening to you. So I give you a few, for instances, and obviously, one of them, I'd say download Jassby and sign up, you as a parent, and sign up your kids for it. And that can be a great opportunity to just say, hey, man, or hey, girl, it's I don't know, again, if in your family you give allowances or, different families, what we see is have different habits. So some families, they say, hey, we give weekly or monthly allowance, and that allowance, we expect the kids to help around the house, and we expect them to be good and, helpful citizens within the family, and whatever we give them, again, on a weekly or monthly allowance, it's all encompassed. And some say, hey, we don't do the weekly, monthly allowance, but every time they do something, we'll reward them. So you help me clean the garage, it's $10. You walk the dog for a week, it's $15, and so on and so forth. So whatever works for you is well. It's all good. It doesn't matter, but it's a good opportunity to start talking about it. And then the second thing that I think it's so important is those little experiences. So you learn by doing. And what do I mean? So again, part of what we do in Jassby, and we're actually launching it right now as we speak, is we have our Jassby virtual debit card. So it's a debit card, the one that you would have. It's a MasterCard debit card that you can use anywhere, really. And I tell people, go send your kids. So my son is 12. Every few weeks, I send him to the supermarket, even if I drive him or if he goes on his bike, if it's nice weather. And I tell him, hey, buy bread and a carton of milk. And you know what I want? I want him to go into the store. I want him to locate where the bread is. Well, obviously now he knows, and where the milk is, and carry them and go to the checkout counter and then talk to the cashier and give them the money. And if it's cash, then get the change. And if it's a card, then learn how to use it and sign if you need to and get the receipt and all of those little things. So think about it. If he starts doing this when he's 11, 12, 13, 14, doesn't matter. When he's in college, it won't be the first time in his life that he walks into a supermarket, right? It's not the same thing, by the way. One of the things that I learned is that, so for example, my kids are, pretty good in math. So if you tell them, hey, 10 minus 762, they'll know the answer. But it's very different than if you need to give somebody a $10 bill and then count the change, right? Yeah. It's more stressful. It's not the same as doing some very general, math in your head or on a piece of paper. So all of those kinds of things, that's a start. And then another thing that I've learned is that when you let kids handle their own money, and this has been shown by data and research for many, many years now, if you let kids run their own budget, even if it's on a small scale, they'll grow up again being more responsible adults. So again, my own son, couple of months ago, he was saving for a long time. He wanted Apple AirPods. That's an expensive product. It's like, I don't know, $150, $160. So he saved for months so that he can get this $160. And then, the day came and he was ready to buy it. So he bought it on Jassby or using his Jassby money. And then, how sometimes when you buy electronics, they offer you to add a warranty to it, right? So he never heard about it. So he came to me with his little iPad and said, Dad, look, they want me to give them, I don't know, $20 more, and it gives me some sort of insurance. And he didn't know what to do because he never heard about it. So it was a great opportunity to sit down and say, okay, man, let's talk about this. So why do people buy insurance? And now is it worth it to you? So how careful do you think you're going to be with those things? Are you going to take them when you go play with your friends outside, or it's only in-house thing? Do you think you're going to keep them safe, or is it likely to break? And how much is the cost of this device to you? How much is $160? Like, what happens if you lose them? And all of those things. So we started talking about insurance. But you know something? It wasn't me lecturing him. He came to me and asked because he needed to make a decision about something that was important to him. So those are exactly the things that you remember.
Right. I love that.
Hey guys, guess what? We have a new website where you can see all of our podcasts and get easy access to the show notes, everything we talk about on the episodes, and you can even listen to the podcast directly from the site. You can contact us through the site and share your thoughts and questions. Check it out at www.everythingalways.co. That's www.everythingalways.co.
And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Everything Always Co. We just set it up and we'll be sure to put important announcements there.
And we love that this podcast has been so helpful to so many, and our hope is to share it with even more. So can you help us? Will you take a moment now or after the episode to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, and share it? It would mean the world to us, and it helps us to keep bringing you the best content.
Come on, we appreciate you guys. So what do you say, baby? Back to the episode?
Back to the episode.
So let's talk about when it comes to savings, because right now it's kind of alarming how many people do not have any kind of saving. They're living paycheck to paycheck week. And when things come up, as they inevitably do, surprises, whether it's health, whether it's something happening at your home, your car, some type of an emergency, they're struggling. They don't know what to do. They have to ask for help, but they don't have it. And, like you were saying earlier, it's this conversation that's not happening. And so it's almost like not having these conversations is contributing to our kids being in that same boat of not having the savings and not being prepared. And maybe, to what you were saying earlier, maybe it's that parents not having that makes them afraid to have the conversation with their kids, because they're like, what can I teach them? I'm not doing it very well myself. Potentially, but how can we change that? How can we change the paycheck to paycheck mentality or way of life? Because I would guarantee that most people do not want to be living that way.
Of course. And so, it's a great question. And I think, when I grew up as a kid, so myself, I have two older brothers, and my dad was a police officer, and my mom was like a homemaker, and she never worked. And my dad passed away when I was relatively young. And, we were in a good day aspiring to be middle class, because most of the time were less than that. So I completely understand what living paycheck to paycheck is, because that's again, how I grew up. And I think one of the things, so I saw it in my parents, I saw it mostly with my mom, is that I think people wait for something big, or they feel like it's not worth it to do anything if it's not major. And I think it's the opposite. You start with the little things. You start with making up your bed in the morning. I every day I tell my kids, the first thing you do after you brush your teeth is going back and making up your bed. And it takes 2 minutes, man. It doesn't matter. It's such a small thing. But if you can't do that, how would you tackle anything, bigger than that? Am I making sense to you? So you start with something small. It doesn't have to be that you save half your paycheck, or it doesn't matter, because obviously, most of us can't save half of their paycheck. We just don't have enough. But But you do something small. You say, I'm going to, so whatever it is, you're going to start saving 1%, 2%, 5%, whatever you feel you can. And even if you start only by doing 1 or 2%, do it for 3 months and then say to yourself, hey, maybe I can do 4 or 5. And maybe you can't, but maybe you can. And I think most people will be surprised. So it's those start small. I have this very strong belief that best is enemy of the good. If you wait for something to be perfect, you'll never do it. And I think the trick is starting, making a reasonable effort, and then doing a little bit better every month or every week or whatever it is, every period of time. Just small iterations, and over time they build up. So one of the things, again, that I would say to kids, and that's something, again, that we allow in Jassby, is to set up saving goals. So you can do it 2 ways. You can say, hey, to 10% of whatever I get from allowance or for gifts or for if I have a little job, I don't know, if I feed the neighbor's cat when they're away, I'm going to save 10% and put it aside in like a little saving Jassby account. Or whenever you have a little bit, extra that you didn't feel that you need to buy the video game that month, but make it something. So the one thing I don't let them do is tell me, hey, I couldn't do it. And I tell them, listen, seriously, you couldn't put aside $1? I'm not telling you put 100.
Right.
$1 in a month. You can't. I don't believe you. It's not true. Right? I know you can. And then what happens is that when this becomes a habit, then the $1 becomes 2 and becomes 5 and maybe becomes 10. And another thing happens is the more you do it, the more successful you are at it, the better you feel about it, the more you want to do it again, right?
Yes.
So we train our brains, we see success and we enjoy success, so we want to do it again. So start super small, start easy. What you want to do is succeed. And, again, have this discussion with your kids. Listen, man, grandparents gave you this one because it was Christmas or it was your birthday, and I give you whatever number of dollars every Sunday or once a month every Sunday, and this is your income, right? So let's acknowledge what it is. So we talk about it. So, hey, man, you make $50 a month or $30 a month or $100 a month. I don't know. So now what do you spend it on? And what do you think would be a great goal for you to save for? A new video game, it doesn't have to be a college fund. Something that a kid would want, but it would take some time to get there. So again, for my son, it was the AirPods. And he worked on that for like 5 months, maybe more. But you know something? When he finally got it, it was so worth it, right? It is his most cherished possession because he bought it. And even if it takes months, it gets you into the habit. And again, something small every time. So this is what I would say is, one, have the conversation, even if it's uncomfortable. And after the first or second time that you talk about this, it will become more comfortable because the taboo is broken now. So you can talk about it. And why we didn't go to on vacation this summer? Because you know why? Because it's Corona time and our salaries were cut back and the vacation cost money, man. And here's how much it costs. So we needed to decide, do we do that or we send you to karate lessons? And we thought the karate lessons are more important. So just talk about it because it's true anyway, right? So why wouldn't they know it?
No, exactly. I think it's so important to have those conversations and to realize that you might want to be doing things differently, and you can also learn together and have those conversations and say, we might not have done the best job in terms of saving. Let's do a challenge together and save, like you said, start small, 1% of the money that we get, and let's see where we're at in 3 months. And I love that I'm a big fan of the first thing that you do in the morning is make your bed.
Yes.
And I've always been that way. My parents taught me that. And it's that little thing, that little sense of accomplishment that you have done that then carries on into, okay, I've done that. Now I'm motivated to do the next thing and the next thing. And it's these little steps. And some people they feel like, okay, but I'm not at this level yet with my finances, or I don't have this much in my savings account. And so they get so overwhelmed with this, number that they think they're supposed to be at, that they end up just not doing it at all because they feel badly about themselves. Whereas those small little steps, those small little accomplishments are the things that keep building upon each other so that you keep doing more and more.
Exactly. And I always, I find again, our kids in general, I think, this next generation or two, Generation Z, Generation Alpha, they're so smart. I mean, man, they're like really smart. It amazes me every time. Sometimes I go to schools or I talk to kids, not that, just mine, like, in general. And they're so smart. It's almost mind-boggling how much more smart they are than I think we were. And, we just treat them like they're not. So, we just talk to them, right? And again, even if it's acknowledging that you are not perfect, but just talk about it and talk about what it means to take a loan. I don't know, a few months ago, I was driving with my kids and I asked them if they know the difference between a debit card and a credit card. And they didn't. They heard the terms, because you see them on stickers everywhere, right? When you're in a supermarket. So they knew that there's such thing existed. And they saw how they look, right? They saw the plastic, or they understand that you can use it on a phone, but they didn't know the difference between them. So it's
Right.
a great, again, so explain it very, simply. In explain why credit is great on one side, but, you pay interest. And then ask them, do you know what interest is? And you'll probably be surprised because they don't. But you think a 10-year-old can grasp what interest is? Of course he can or she can. I keep saying here because I have boys. So of course they can, right? It's obvious. And it doesn't need to be super sophisticated. It doesn't have to have formulas like in economics class in college. Just explain what interest does. And then you start talking about it. So, why sometimes interest is bad. Like if you owe money, then you need to pay a little bit more when you return it. But if you have a little money and you invest it, then your money grows. So it depends on what you want to do with it. And then, you talk about investment. And again, investment doesn't have to be $1 million. It can be 50. It can be something small, right? You can do little, I do deals with my kids all the time, so you save a little bit. And when you reach $100, you give it to me. I hold it for you for 3 months. I'll give you back 105. And again, it doesn't matter. Obviously, I'm not doing any of this for the money. It's just to teach them that it's a great idea. And when they get the $5 back, even if it's not that much money, so it's much more than the bank would give you, right, these days. But again, it's the sense of accomplishment. And now they say to themselves, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to give somebody $100 and get 105 back, and not get $100 and need to pay 105. You know what I mean? So they understand where do they want to put themselves. And again, I constantly think about this, and this is something we see all the time. We spend so much energy, so much money, sending our kids to like fancy colleges in which they learn nothing and have a degree that's worth nothing, and then they go up to the workforce and they work like maybe minimum wage, and they have $500,000 in student loans, and we never talk to them about, is it even worth it? Like, why do it? Maybe you take all this money and maybe a little bit money than you saved before and put a down payment on a small apartment when you're 18. And where do you think you're going to be when you're 26 compared to your friends if you have a small asset? It's like those things. You don't have to be a millionaire to do it. You don't have to be super smart to do it. You just need to train yourself to do it and train your kids to do it. And that's part of the reason of why I built Jassby, exactly for that. So it would level the playing field. I don't care who you are. You can give your kids, I don't know, maybe it's not true for everybody, but most people can give their kids $20 a month. Start there. And start with those $20 and teach them how to grow them and how to treat them. And even if they don't grow, just so they understand what they've done with them.
So I want to talk a little bit more about Chassby. Just listening to all of this could be overwhelming to some. Okay, how do I start with savings, with all of these things? And you've created a platform where they can do all of this. It's super user-friendly, the whole family. It's amazing. So first, congratulations on that. It's incredible. I'm so excited for my family to use this and implement this and teach them as well. But can you just give us a little bit more of, what are the things, what does that look like? Getting the app, signing up, what are the types of things that they're going to learn? And then of course, where can we find it?
So you can find it at the App Store, and you just, search Jassby, Jassby. Right now it's in the Apple App Store. It will come to the Google App Store, or Google Play, I think it's called, towards the end of the year. And you can also go to www.jassby.com, again, Jassby, and click download. And what you would do, so it's really, really very easy. And again, we use a lot of, large words in our conversation, but it's nothing like that. And it's not like some boring, condescending lecture that the app will tell you, you have to do this and that. It's nothing like that at all. So you just click download, you install the app, you open it, and we ask to begin with that the parent, one of the parents, would be the one that organizes the family. So because of privacy and because we don't want to collect kids' information and anything like that, one of the parents would download. The app has this onboarding or signing up, if you want, process where there is this AI little bot that chats with you. So it's like a chat. So it will ask you what's your name, and you will say, and what's your address, and what's your email. And it takes less than 2 minutes. And then it will ask you, do you want to add your spouse? Do you want to add a grandmother or grandfather? And you can go and do this. And then it will ask you to add your kids. So you just say, again, say their name, You give their birthdays because we need to verify kids' ages. So we want to be COPA compliant. It means Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. So we want to make sure that we know how old the kids are so we can, treat them in an appropriate way. And you sign up your kids. So again, this means that you give us their name and their birthday, mostly. And then you click done. And once you're done, your accounts are being created automatically in the cloud for you, for your spouse, for the grandparents, and for the kids. And then each one of those people, so let's say your kid, they would need to download Jassby and just sign in the way that you provided, and it's done. And then the whole thing, so sign up depends on how many family members, obviously, you wanna add. But let's say a family of a parent and 2 kids and maybe 1 grandparent, it's like what we kind of average, takes about 2 to 3 minutes. And then once it's done, there are a few things that we recommend that you do. So one, you start by setting up an automatic allowance. And it's completely up to you, once a week, once a month, $1, $5, $10, whatever works for you. But it's one of the things that we feel and we saw that gets the ball rolling. So, I started when my kids were very young, I started every Sunday $3, something small. But I said it's automatic, so now I can't forget. And if I forget, it doesn't matter because it happens automatically. And now I can start doing more things. So now the kids would see every Sunday they have a little bit of money coming into their app. And it's very nice for them, just to open the app and look at it. And now you can say, hey, man, if you help me clean the car, it's worth $10. Or they can suggest it for you, right? Hey, mom, if I do the dishes for a week, would you pay me $12? And you can agree or not agree. So even this little negotiation, by the way, that happens very fluently and very, fun-like through the app, it's nice. And it makes them volunteer to do more things around the house, right? Takes more responsibility. Right? So my kids for the last 6 months, they feed the dogs every morning. And it's like clockwork. I don't even say it's like, it just happens. We have 3 dogs and each have his own kind of food. And they just, they wake up, they do their beds, they go downstairs, they get the dog foods. All happens automatically. It's like magic, right? And it's a sense of accomplishment for them. And then you can do more things. You can say, hey, I'm going to set a small saving goal. And again, it can be, in the next month, I want to save $10. And tell your kids, I want to save $10. And they'll go, and try and do it. Maybe they succeed, maybe they don't. But it almost doesn't matter because they're in the plan towards doing that, if that makes sense. So think about this as like, it's a little part, it's a little path in life's journey. And the idea is that you'll get them ready for real life and you'll teach them how to think about money at an earlier age. So they would have such an advantage, compared to their peers that would go at 18 to college and like don't know anything about anything. So it's really very easy. Again, just go download, go, play with it a little bit, answer those few questions that the AI bot would ask you. A couple of minutes, you're all set.
For sharing all this with us. I'm going to make sure that we have in our show notes the links to the App Store, to the website. This is it's so incredible for people to think about and actually makes it really simple for them to implement in their family. So I'm seriously so excited. I'm so excited to try it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great. I hope the technical difficulties didn't make it too bad.
I think we'll be. We've got really good editors, so
yes. Thank God for that.
Exactly. So yeah, we should be good there. But
okay.
No, thank you so much. This was so great.
Thank you so much, Summer. It was so much fun.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Our goal is to bring you all kinds of value that will help you navigate these challenging waters of blending a family.
Reach out to us if there's something specific you want to hear.
And don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.
And if you really like it, share with someone you love.
Ooh, and be bold enough to share it with someone you don't.